Welcome to the Completely Unnecessary Podcast. It's a super show.
The heat is on.
It is a little humid today. Uncharacteristically humid for Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. That's Ian Ferguson.
Hi, it's me.
I'm Pat Content. We were talking Axel F.
We were.
On another podcast, patreon.com/CU podcast you can listen to later if you want.
Yeah, I was talking about how good the soundtrack is.
It's a great movie. 40 Years of Beverly Hills Cop.
Fuck.
On the show today, God, relax, Ian. God,
Jesus.
We're talking about FPGA consoles a go-go. We're talking about the Atari 50th expansion DLC. We'll be talking about Netflix looking at game collectibles on King of Collectibles show. And we'll also be talking about the Xbox 360 collecting scene. Is it a bubble or is it hot? Like what's going on? Hot or not? Remember that old website back in the day, hotornot.com?
I do.
Well, that's going back. That's what we got going on.
What a weird fucking idea for a website. Let's just make ourselves feel awful on purpose.
I think I met one person off that site back in like 2003 or whenever that was for. Anyway, how's it going, Ian? Doing okay?
Yeah, it's good.
My hair's frizzing out because of the humidity. It's uncharacteristically humid today here.
I'm
got the windows open and the fans on.
I'm enjoying the haircut. It's less warm.
Oh, not mine.
No,
I just got mine cut 3 weeks ago.
It never looks like you get a haircut. It looks like it just kind of stays in stasis.
I mean, I always take a picture or look at the bundle of hair on the ground.
I know.
It's a bundle.
I hate to say it, but every time you're like, I got my hair cut, I can't tell.
I mean,
you show me, like, I've seen the pictures, like, you get hair removed, but I don't know where it comes from.
I don't know. It's like a molt and it just grows back instantly. I don't know. I guess it's a good problem to have. I
was going to say, I don't think baldness is in your future.
It didn't happen at this point. It is what it is. Thanks my mom for the genetics, thankfully. My dad has thinning hair, but not my mom. So, what's going on? I don't know. What are we doing in this podcast? Gimmick 2 was announced.
Gimmick 2 was announced. Just announced. The trailer is a big tease.
I've known about it for years since I know the folks involved with this, and at Bitwave, and it's one of those things where, like, Gimmick, if it gotten its real shot, if it had come out in North America, I think would have been a long-running like IP of some. I'm not saying it would have been as big as Sonic. It would have been something. It would have gotten multiple games. It would have got like a Game Boy Color release. Like it would have gotten some stuff along the way, like 3 or 4 games.
I could see it getting. I think that's right. I think I could have seen that easily getting a portable. Rendition.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, it's got the vibes that Kirby has. It's got very Kirby-esque vibes. Now, granted, the game is very difficult, but yeah, I think it would have done well here if it had been released. Yeah,
so we've had this. You don't want to say renaissance because you had the arcade conversion that really no one's really played because it was like mostly Japanese.
Well, it's a very I got to remember the name of the arcade unit. It's a new cartridge based arcade unit. Well, not super new anymore, but yes, it's not common. There are some in the US.
The point is
round ones have them, but round ones have them, but they usually have the shooters in there, not Gimmick.
Did we see it at round 1?
No, I looked for it. I did not see one.
Okay, so you had like a arcade conversion the past, what is it? That was 4 or 5 years. You had the re-release that came out.
EXA Arcadia, that's the name of the system.
So you had that. You had the re-release. Give it its proper re-release for modern audiences, and now you have a sequel coming out. You finally have a real plush that came out. So Gimmick deserves a chance.
Soundtrack. A soundtrack I listen to a lot, actually.
Like, why is it giving me a little scary?
Because I don't think a lot of people. I buy video game soundtracks because I like them and I like to collect them. A lot of times they're packaged nice. I like the artwork.
Sure.
But there's not a lot of them that I listen to constantly, and the Gimmick soundtrack I throw on a few times a month. It's just really, really good.
It's ridiculously good.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So, I don't know a huge amount about this game, but I will be optimistic towards it, and I hope it strikes the same chord of ingenious platforming action, and I hope that it has the same sort of like cute but like very interesting and unique enemies that the first game has, where there's like an interesting AI to these enemies that almost all other NES games did not have. It's hard to find another NES game that had reactive enemies in the same way to that extent, where where a lot of them moved like, you know, Shadow Link basically and responded to you like, but a lot of the enemies had their own like rudimentary, you know, sort of artificial intelligence patterning, which is interesting.
It would be very easy for, and I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. I am cautiously optimistic about this. It would be easy in the wrong hands for this to turn into a generic platformer with cute graphics and completely miss what made the original special, which is, yes, it looks nice and has a banging soundtrack, but the gameplay is hard and unique, and the weapon is interesting, and the enemies are interesting, and it's just, it would be very easy to dumb that down and go for, you know, just the visuals. And I'm not saying Bitwave will, I'm not saying they'll do this, but I'm just saying it would be very easy to make that mistake.
It's easy to screw it up.
Yeah.
You take out all the heart, you take out the world building in it, you take out the little pieces and niceties and stuff like, you know, you talk about, you know, the second stage, we always just do the NES Marathon. You go off to the side, you look out, you hear the birds, the seagulls chirping, like just the little moments that almost every other game would not put in, because
that's first level. You walk up, because I've been playing it recently. It's as you go up, instead of climbing up the boat in the first, like,
second stage.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yep. It is. You go off to the side.
I might have done an NES Punk review about this.
No, I know you did, but I literally was playing it like last week, and nope, my memory.
You were?
Yeah, my memory has just failed me.
It's right to the right of the boat, second stage.
Yeah.
A little. Speaking of the second stage, a little turtle upside down, his little legs kick. If you stand on top of it, you move. His legs kick you.
I hate the fucking boss in level 2 though.
The pirate guy.
Yeah.
Why do you hate him?
He just keeps coming at you.
Well, they all do. To some extent, but I see what you mean. He's one of the AI guys. He sort of counters your movements all that.
Yeah, when you look online for strategies, they're like, I don't know, get good. There's not like any like real strategies.
No, there's not like most of those bosses. There's not like a direct pattern that's easily
exploitable. I think honestly, I think
that might have held it back a little bit. I don't know.
No, well, I think it might have, because it's not exactly what people remember, but I also think the second boss is one of the hardest bosses in the game.
I gotta go back and replay it because I don't remember. I think the
first boss is easy.
I remember the hardest boss being the spider machine boss when he shoots the rays from up top. That's like the fifth stage. Remember that?
I have not made it there.
Oh, okay.
Because I refuse to beat the game. I want to see if I can actually beat the game without save states, cheating, stuff like that. And no, I can make it to level 4, I believe, is where I can make it.
It's a tough game, so I'm not saying get good. It's one of the tougher games.
Yeah.
Especially our version, which had less lives versus the Japanese one. A lot of FPGA Sega consoles getting announced. Well, 2, both in South America. I don't know. Well, they love down in Brazil.
Specifically Brazil loves their Tectoy. They love.
They were
Sega.
selling the Master System until like 2008.
Yes.
They were selling like. They love their Sega.
I know I mentioned this on here before, but every summer, especially when Luna had a location in Ocean Beach.
2 locations now.
2 locations, not in Ocean Beach. We'd get a ton of Brazilians coming up to vacation. Ocean Beach always sees a lot of people from 2 places in the summer: Ireland,
really,
and Brazil. Yes.
I know there's Brazilians there. I know a lot of Irish people.
Lots of Irish people, especially for the few years when I was living there. Like, it was a group of them, and they kept and like a ton of Irish people would come into Ocean Beach, take up summer rentals. They would cram like 5 people into like 2-bedroom apartments.
Well, you know why? There's sun, but not too much sun. Maybe that's
why. But Brazilians would come up all the time, and they would, without fail, come into the fucking store and buy a Sega Genesis for the summer and then sell it back to us at the end of the summer.
Like a rental.
They fucking love the Sega systems. Particularly, though, they do seem to be really fond of the Master System.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess they didn't get Nintendo down there consoles. Like same thing like in Europe, it wasn't as popular, but I guess in South America, I guess they're unheard of in Brazil. And so like they were just Team Sega. They had a lot of releases down there that we never got. they had the Mortal Kombat games that we never had on the Master System. They're pumping out those games.
Yeah.
Why not?
So there's 2 that are in some form of development.
And let's just be safe when we say we don't know like where these are going to end up. We don't have a lot of information on these.
But one is the Super Sega FPGA system.
Which is going to have supposedly every Sega system compatibility from the SG-1000 all the way to to the Dreamcast. So you're talking what's that, 6 platforms, 7 platforms of Sega goodness.
Yeah,
on there.
And then they have some rough, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a CAD. Rough design docs. It looks kind of like a master system.
It's going to be
a CD drive.
It's going to be as wide as a skateboard. It looks like with all these things in it.
Yeah,
because you have to have all the cartridge slots for the different cartridges. You have to have a CD drive for Sega CD and Dreamcast. This is not going to be a small footprint. If this is what it ends up being.
No, and they're targeting $400 to $450, which is just. I mean, if it does all of that and has an optical drive and is an FPGA, again, that leads to me saying well, can we get an FPGA disk system? Are we going to get cores for disk systems?
Well, they exist. It's just
my understanding is that realistically, FPGA is going to top out at PSX 64 and maybe PS2 level in terms of what can
be done,
feasibly be recreated, but I guess we'll see.
Well, at some point they didn't think the N64 would be feasible, and it became feasible. So
yeah, and then so that's them. So that's the Super Sega.
So let's just say here's a quote from the good old TimeExtension.com, my favorite editor, Damian McFerrin, who didn't legally threaten me at all years ago. Not at all. So here's a quote from the article. Burgess, who's I guess one of the heads, said the 4 USB-A ports will be used for these consoles, and there'll be USB-ready versions or adapter that will permit the use of original pads. And then they hope to get enough interest that they can produce a few thousand units, because it's not like you can produce 100 of these. It'd be impossible for it to be cost-effective, so you need to get into the thousands. It might go up if we include licensed games, a GD-ROM-compatible optical drive, an internal SSD drive, and so on. But please take this target with a grain of salt. It can go up, and we think that it will be in the $400 ballpark. Well, maybe it's good not to throw a price out right now then until you have your specs.
Well, this all sounds like This sounds like Tommy Tallarico level wish casting.
Well,
we've got, as for how the device will deal with Dreamcast's proprietary GD-ROM format, Burgess explains that the team is still researching this. So they're promising things that they're still researching.
Release date is somewhat hard to pin down as prototype boards are still in development. We expect these boards to be completed after the holidays, so between September and October. Okay, not our holiday season, I guess other holidays. After that, we will focus on completing the FPGA cores and then the GUI. All right, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens with that. But that's not there's another one, though. That's just what's happening down there? Is this like a console war that's happening?
Yeah, not a whole lot of information on this one that I can get, but this one would be going by it would be the FPGA Neptune. So they'd be taking a nod for the name. They'd be taking the nod from the non-existent, the canceled Sega Neptune, which was going to be a combo Genesis 32X.
Yeah, it was going to be basically a 32X console, which 25 people would have been excited for at the time.
Yeah.
That's a good one. You shouldn't have probably put out the 32X at all, but good thing you didn't put out the Neptune. I don't think it would have sold.
Yeah, I don't think the Neptune would have sold at all. So. Yep, that's basically what's out there. I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
I don't think there's probably enough market space for 2 different specific Sega FPGA consoles. Well, that I don't know. I'm kind of concerned about the first one in terms of the trying to do it all at the same time. It's going to be gigantic.
It's not going to succeed.
And it's how many people want to play? How many Sega fans know about the SG-1000? You know what I mean? Or an SG-3000 to want to even play those games, even have it as a concern. I just think that's where I get sort of well, if you did something even that was just we'll do one just for Genesis, Sega CD, and 32X, we'll be that would have been probably fine. We'll just take care of that, and you would have got a lot of people.
I just feel once you get to that point, even Sega fans, you're spreading it among physical collections, so. I don't know what the only, I think, easy way to do this is to eliminate all of your official cartridge, eliminate cartridge and disk inputs and use ISOs and ROMs, at which point you might as well be downloading cores to your Pocket or your Mister. Or
just have a Mister at that point.
Or at that point, a Mister that's set up and ready to go.
It's funny because now I see Brazilian influencers on my sidebar that are talking about this stuff, and they have I guess that crosses all international barriers. You get the O face, in the thumbnail, like like FPGA. That's international. That language, the language of cringy thumbnails, is international. This news I just saw today. It's Prime Day today and tomorrow. It's Uncle Jeff Bezos loves you all. Go buy from him. They have a holiday for it. Megan Thee Stallion is part of the campaign this year. Amazon is now selling a no console required Xbox bundle. Is this the future of Xbox? This is from a Robert Anderson article on IGN.com. Stream Xbox games, no console required, reads the Amazon listing, which also mentions how it's the only streaming media player with the Xbox app. That's an interesting little caveat there, that I guess it's already bundled. So it's listed at $79, a $41 saving versus buying the controller, subscription, and streaming stick separately. And there are multiple colors to choose from. So it's interesting. It's not shocking that we're at this point.
No, it's not. I think everyone kind of expected that Microsoft was going to kind of eventually try to float away from consoles. It's just never been what's worked for them. I mean, well, it worked for them for the 360, but the Xbox One and the Series X, it's not.
I mean, this generation, it's like, do they have a console? Like what this generation? Like so.
I don't think streaming gaming is there yet, but obviously people are still doing it. And this does say it has an updated Wi-Fi chip in the Fire Stick.
Okay. 4K.
But Microsoft recently split up Game Pass into tiers, and they're changing how the Game Pass system works.
Oh yeah.
They're not making any money. They're not making the money they thought, and now they're trying to like day one exclusives. They're failing the experiment. It's failing.
Can I just say for a second, we'll just rewind, because this has affected, obviously, movies, probably even more so. I mean, games it's affected in terms of layoffs, but in terms of the such short-sightedness of these entertainment companies to not wait out the pandemic for a couple years and to just give into, well, we got to cheapen all our existing entertainment so we get quick subscription casts and devalue your entertainment that you create and give it away for free. And now you're like, well, now we can't make any money anymore because people expect stuff for free. That's basically what's happened with movies and destroying the theater system, and now destroying, I guess, AAA games, because you're always going to have the smaller game companies now and independent. But like this is, chickens came home to roost pretty quickly on this stuff.
Well, AAA games destroyed AA games, and now AAA games are eating themselves. And what we've got are very, very small studios or very, very big studios.
But how could you expect to make money long term? These games cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and now you're going to throw it on a bundle, a Game Pass subscription, and give them away for free? That's not sustainable.
I enjoyed the fat years of it, but the lean years are here now, and the lean years are very lean, and it's not a great service, and now they're just further butchering the service. So you put all your marbles into this service, or you put all your eggs in this basket that, Game Pass was going to be kind of your way to keep making money in video games after the consoles. But now no one wants to do this. Like, it's short-sighted. There's only so much there's only so much time where that makes sense.
But it doesn't support making these big games either. It's like,
now I'm looking at pictures of Megan Thee Stallion.
Ian? Eyes up here, everybody. Don't give in. Don't give in.
It's tough, man.
I know. She's
fucking gorgeous.
She's a cutie pie.
Yeah. All right.
Every once in a while on the timeline, you'll see it when she throws out the first pitch, and those white jeans. Remember that? And like even the cameraman's like, oh, the cameraman's struggling. The cameraman's struggling.
We're going to stop before I get the wolf eyes.
Oh, okay. I've never seen the Ian Wolf eyes. I'm not sure I want to.
So anyway, the awooga.
The awooga from the old.
Yeah.
And then the steam comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
So, this is not shocking. We've said for years, don't call us prognosticators, but we said several years ago that Xbox is moving away from the console business. It makes sense just in terms of your risk of trying to keep up with the latest hardware and losing money on your consoles. The fucking $1 billion you spend every cycle on R&D, and trying to produce these things, and the headache.
Yeah.
And at some point, it's like, what are we doing? Nintendo ends up being the smart ones. We're always going to use 8-year-old technology, and it doesn't matter. And we're going to make money no matter what.
I think we're getting back to the point where, they can't use 8-year-old technology anymore, but they're still really good at making something that people will buy on a slim budget.
It's still going to be years old technology, this new Switch. It's not going to be cutting edgy, and it's.
I'm not saying it's cutting edge. I'm saying that they can't rely. Yeah, they can't rely on quite as much dated technology as they used to.
Well, but I mean, it worked out pretty well for the Switch. I mean, it wasn't 8 years old at the time, but it was still years old, and people were up in arms about it. Oh my God! It's not 4K, and it's like, sorry, we're going to be counting our money until the sun explodes. Doesn't matter.
You know what people aren't up in arms about?
What, Ian?
UltimateNintendo.com.
Why aren't up in arms at UltimateNintendo.com?
Various reasons. You hit them, Pat.
Well, because you got an N64 guidebook you can pre-order that we're targeting a September release of that. You can get in early, and you can get the Super Nintendo book. NES is out of stock, unfortunately. I got plans for that in the future. And you got RBI baseball stickers. You got CU Podcast enamel pins. We have stickers.
Moving fast.
I just sold. I sold out of them at Too Many Games a few weeks ago. I brought about 25 of them. Wow. I mean, I'll be dead before I sell out of all of them, but I'll put it in my will for you, Ian.
I'm just kidding.
You can carry on the legacy. Only at UltimateNintendo.com. I'm on Twitch every Wednesday, twitch.tv/CountryCode. And hey, I brought back the Not So Common podcast, and I did it with my pal Alex Fasciani last week. Check it out if you want to check it out. It was good. We talked about dumb YouTubers, which we'll talk about again coming up later on. There's this Kickstarter for Game Changers.
Yeah,
which is
looking at it.
It's a video game history series. Documentary series is going to look at one game an episode looks like. Looks like they already did a bunch of interviews. Phil Moore is leading up this. He's the face of this Kickstarter. Phil Moore, nice guy who was great on Nick Arcade back in the day.
Met him a few times. He's a fun guy. I don't hate the idea. To me, what this looks like.
What's up?
And I really liked it. I like shows like this that take one thing and look at the history behind it. I always point to the toys that made us. Mm-hmm. Because I am not interested in toys at all, but I like the history to it. I like the behind the scenes stuff to it. And that's basically what this looks like it wants to attempt. I'm just not sure that the interest level would be the same. And while some of the subjects picked are definitely interesting to me, I'm not sure that they would have, necessarily mass appeal.
Well, I mean, it depends upon, it looks like, okay, so they have the games listed here. They have Dragon's Lair, they have Tomb Raider. I guess this would be quote unquote the season 1. Wolfenstein 3D, Centipede, Mortal Kombat, Baldur's Gate, Star Fox, Myst, Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and then Duke Nukem 3D.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I was being a little too harsh. Those are good. Those are good picks. I think Dragon's Lair is maybe the weakest one of them, but that would be the one I was most interested in seeing.
Well, that's the image on here that they have the interview with Don Bluth and Gary Goldman.
And I'm glad they got that because Bluth is not young. He's getting. Every time I see him still kicking, I'm impressed.
Well, none of us are getting younger, but yeah, a lot of these guys that worked on this stuff in the 70s and 80s, it's like we're talking 40, 50 years ago. Dragon's Lair's over 40 years old. It's like, yeah.
Bluth worked on fucking Sleeping Beauty. I mean, Bluth has been in the game for fucking ever. He's 86 years old.
So this isn't a look at me, but you brought up the toys that made us. I think I told you they contacted me at one point, right? Mm-hmm. They contacted me years ago, and they were, I think, thinking about getting into the business of doing that structure.
Yeah, we had talked about it. I remember.
And at the time, I think they wanted to focus on the launch of the NES as a toy because video games are still toys, I guess, on some level. And so they were sort of priming me for questions, and I was kind of like doing their homework for them on the phone, telling them like things they should look into, but they didn't go down that avenue. And I wonder why. Looking back, is it because individual video games are harder to market versus a mass toy line that hit a lot more kids? Probably that's only going to like Dragon's Lair is to the general public a much smaller niche than saying, oh, we're going to cover He-Man toys. Which,
well, and that's so what I think it probably came down to is toys are one thing, and if your next option is we're going to do this for games or we're going to do this for movies, you have to look at what people say about video game history and how so much of it is obscured and unknown. I would bet that if they did their research, they probably realized it was just going to be easier to find the info they needed for the movies to do the history as opposed to the games, because, I mean, that's what game historians talk about all the time is the history, especially the early history, just isn't there.
And it's probably, you don't want to say it's less interesting of history, but you talk about all the stories that come out, good and bad, from from movie shoots. Think about how legendary the stories alone of like Predator. You hear about all the stories.
Yeah, because you have people, personalities with feelings, all working together in tight environments.
They're in the jungle. They're doing it.
There's always going to be good stories.
And I guess a lot of video game development stories would be, hey, we were in office, we had to make a decision. Like, it's not as colorful. It's a lot more muted versus.
I think what makes the toys an interesting mix of the both is, yeah, you're still confined to like offices, but you get that kind of push and pull of creators what the creators want via the marketers and things like that.
And drawing and back and forth.
And right. And even though there is some of that with video games, I don't feel like you'd be able to show that to an audience as effectively as you can with toys. And then obviously movies. And
like Predator was like, 150 people making it. And like a lot of these early arcade games and stuff are like 2-3 people making them. So it's like, it's not quite the same stories. It's not quite, I mean, go look up the stories about Predator. Not even just the Van Damme stuff. Arnold and Jesse Ventura and Sonny Landham having, he had security to keep Sonny Landham away from everyone else because he was such a dangerous person in real life.
Yeah.
And the fact that the first crew was a disaster, that they basically had to fly people down from the US to continue the movie. The one guy, fire ants on his arm the first day of filming. Like there's this, Arnold went back and forth with his wedding. He had dysentery, like just like a fucking disaster of a production. And it's one of the best action movies ever. Like you can do a whole documentary series, like 10 episodes probably on the making of like a movie here.
Yeah, you wouldn't want. I think a lot of those. That's the thing. Movies almost too much for a half-hour episode.
Yeah, you can't fit it in. Like it's ridiculous.
If you're finding a movie that has an interesting enough production story that it lasts half an hour, it could almost certainly last an hour.
There's a mock documentary series that came out last year about the making of Godfather. That is based somewhat in reality. They did a whole series about the making of one movie and made it a fictional version of it. That's how crazy it was. Like,
I hate that. The fictionalization of true events. I watched the first season of that the Lakers show, the Lake Show.
Yeah, supposedly that was really good.
It was amazingly acted. Like it was really well done, except for the fact that I just couldn't wrap my head around a fictional alternate telling of it. Like
Jerry West was not pleased by how he was portrayed.
Right.
And
no, I'm sure.
So rest in peace, Jerry West. Everyone loved Jerry. You see the interview he had with I told you to see the interview.
Yeah, I did.
Was that a great interview?
It was fantastic.
Tears to my eyes.
It's good.
That. So anyways, so this Kickstarter is struggling. It's at 10,000. It's not looking great, but check it out. 20 days left on it. 21 days. Game Changers on Kickstarter there. Want to talk about Atari 50th expansion?
Yeah, just a little bit. I think it's interesting that they released the Atari 50th. Jesus, celebration.
Okay? A year and a half ago already came out.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I talked more than that, I think. I think it's like 2 or 3 years because they've already done the first Gold Master and the second Gold Master since.
Okay. I thought
the Gold Master came out after.
I thought it was late 22 it came out, maybe. Okay, I'll look it up. Anyway,
yeah, just look it up.
Not a big deal.
No.
Nitpicking me, Ian.
And it's fantastic. No, I mean, I'm trying to just
put it into perspective
in my head, too. We talked about it. Great collection.
Outstanding.
Amazing. And like the way it's presented. It's the format that I think going forward is really the only format for these sorts of things. It's wonderful.
Not the only one, but it could be a preferred structure.
Yeah, it's a really, really good structure and format
of history interviews mixed in with pictures and concepts with the game. So you get like it's like walking through a museum with a guide, basically like a guided tour.
Yeah. And they released what they could at the time. They don't have all the licenses to Atari's stuff. Well, I don't think Atari technically has all the licenses to their stuff because there's the 80s games like Road Blaster and 720
Yeah, they don't have
Marble
rights
Madness.
to those rights to those offshoot games. I want to look up. I'm top of my head. I think it's a claim, but I'm not sure. I'll look them up.
But they released some DLC that was free, added some games. Made me realize that I love Atari Bowling. It's a really fun game, like extremely fun.
I don't know if I played that on the collection. I don't know if I...
It's well, like I said, it was added DLC, but it was free. It's a really fun game, and that was great. And now they're adding more. They're adding 2 timelines to the collection, and they're making a new physical version of the game on top of it. The 2 timelines that they're adding are the first console war, and it's going to feature... Huh?
Okay.
Yeah. What?
No, go.
Oh, the first console war, and it's going to include 20 playable games, 6 video segments. It'll tell the story between Mattel and the television. It's going to have the M Network games.
Okay. It gives you a little more reasoning behind wanting to acquire in television.
Right.
To do that, because now it's like without them being on board, it's easier. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the chicken or the egg? I don't know. But, and then it's also doing another one that is called, I can't remember what the other timeline was called. It's like additional Atari or the hell is it?
So real quick, people know M Network was in television games that ended up on the 2600. They basically ported it over to their competition when they realized we got to make money off of this much larger audience.
So the other timeline is called The Wider World of Atari.
Okay.
Features 19 playable games, 8 video segments. They have not given any real inclination of what those games are, and I don't think it happened, but I would love it if that included some of the stuff that if they had got, I would love it if they had gotten the licenses to some of the stuff they could not put in the first time.
Like those 80s arcade.
Like those 80s arcade
like the
games.
Atari games. That was literally called Atari games, all those 80s arcade games.
I don't know what Wider World of Atari is supposed to imply.
More Lynx games? Like, what else could it be?
Right, more Lynx, more 32X, more computer stuff. I mean, I would be happy with that too, but that to me doesn't seem like it would require its own new timeline. That stuff would fit into other timelines.
Okay.
So if they're making the console war timeline to have Intellivision games on there, the M Network games, then I feel like that something else suitably needed to happen for the other timeline to be thrown in for a new release version, as opposed to just trickling another 10 games down. I'm really, really hoping that something happened and they got those 80s arcade games.
So I guess
the late 80s.
I guess this is I like that they're doing this. I just don't know, like now, like they said it's going to be DLC to people that bought the original. We don't know the cost of it. They haven't said. So that I'm kind of like, okay, do I want to see the cost of it and wait to see what's actually on this, or do I want to bite the bullet, buy this, have 2 versions, and try to sell my original one? But the original one will probably diminish in value because if it doesn't have all this other stuff on, like that's the math I'm doing. We haven't been in a situation for, as far as I know, where there's been 2 physical releases of like, you want to say like a historic look back collection.
No, not a historic look back. No.
That's where I'm kind of like, not want to say disturbed, but like this is uncharted territory, and I don't want it to become a weird habit where now it's like, okay, are you putting out the complete version, or is this going to be a follow up, down the road where it's different product?
But so my thing with this is less of an issue with this, and this is my problem with modern physical games, and I've talked about it all the time, and people love to give me shit, but nothing you are buying physical is... People used to make the argument that you buy a physical copy of a game because then you own it and it's done. But that has not been the case for a long, long time with updates. You can buy Streets of Rage 4 physical, and then you can buy another physical version of Streets of Rage 4 with the DLC. It's the same thing to me. I don't want them to not keep improving what they've put out. This is only a problem, I think, when you consider physical editions. Now, if it's an entirely new SKU and original edition owners could not download the DLC, I'd be, upset about that. But if owners of the original version can get this DLC, whether it's free or $20 or what, I'm fine with it. And again, I think I get what you're saying with it being a historical document, but
it's Atari 50.
Yes, but yeah. I don't think it needs to. I don't think it needs to stay set in stone. I'd much rather get more than say that this can only exist as it is.
It was, why it was 2022? Atari 50, 72.
There you go. I think it was fall of,
It was fall of 22.
Fall of 22.
That's my only concern. It's like, I want to know if I'm going to be waiting. I would like to know every title weeks in advance. Hopefully we know weeks in advance. That's only fair. So do I have to shell out extra money for it? Do I have to sell my original? Because I want to own the complete physical one as a historical, document. I want to have that personally. Other people, I don't know. It's up to you what you want to do.
Well,
I want to have the definitive version, which is what everyone probably thought the original one was, and now it's not.
What I'll probably do is hold on to my physical copy that I have for Switch.
Sure.
For this new edition, I'm absolutely just buying it on Steam. And the reason why is because I built a paddle controller over the weekend, and so many of those games require paddle controllers. And on the PC version, you can set those paddle games to mouse control, which means I can use the spinner.
Sure.
And then I would like to get the Switch copy. At some point I'll pick one up at a convention or something used.
Well, I'll sell it to you, my copy.
No, I have the old one. I mean, the new one.
Oh.
I'll get that later.
Here's some of the. Okay, so we're not sure what the second timeline is. It's a mystery. If it's the arcade games like 720 and stuff and like Gauntlet, then that's an instant buy on top of instant buy.
I'd lose my fucking mind.
So would I.
Which is why I just don't. Here's the thing. I just don't know what else. I don't know what else would be worth creating a second timeline for.
Well, here's some of the M Network stuff, if you're not aware out there, because that's obviously 2600 era. Yeah, you got stuff like you had the Tron Deadly Disc was brought there. You had like football games and baseball was on there. Star Strike was on there. Some of this I wasn't aware of. Rocky and Bullwinkle. I wasn't even aware of that one.
Was Microsurgeon ever released as an M Network game, or was Microsurgeon a Intellivision exclusive, truly?
I think that was only in television.
It's a bummer. I would love to play.
You got Masters of the Universe through M Network on there. You got. Oh,
really? The Masters of the Universe game?
It's listed on this Armor Ambush. You had, I guess their version of Burger Time was brought over through M Network, and Bump and Jump, two of the more popular third-party games that were on in television. Mm-hmm. Frogs and Flies, that's one of the, I would say, popular in television. So yeah, they just changed the name. So Kool-Aid Man was brought there, Lock and Chase. So you had some of the first party games and some of the third party games. Adventures of Tron, I guess that was the regular. What the hell was Adventures of Tron?
There was like three Tron games.
I know,
Discs of Tron, Solar Sailor, and
but which one was Adventures of Tron? What was that a port of? Which one?
I can't remember.
Was also associated with Tron Deadly Discs. I don't know. I'm not a Tron person, but there was Adventures of Tron on the M Network. I'm not sure which one that was.
Microsurgeon was not on Atari. It was in television. Then, oddly, TI-99 and, even weirder, IBM PC Junior.
I think I have a really beat-up sealed copy of Microsurgeon that's like destroyed from the swap meet for some reason. I had no idea. So that's check it out. It's good for historic preservation, obviously. It would be very good for preservation if you had that updated Analogue Pocket made in aluminum that's milled.
Oh yeah, I mean, interesting. That's for the collectors, man. It's very cool. They were $500, $400,
$499,
$499.
One sold out. They have 4 colors. They have a
which one sold out?
The purplish one. The one that's actually not a shade of gray or black.
Yeah.
There's like a light gray, medium gray, dark gray, which is almost black, it looks like. And then there's a purplish one, which I guess that makes the most sense. That would sell at first.
The gray one's pretty. I'd love to hold one.
I like the medium gray. The medium gray? Yeah,
me too. Like the gunmetal gray.
Gunmetal gray, yeah.
I like that a lot too. I'm sure they're a joy to hold and use. We were actually talking about it during the podcast hangout. I like metal buttons. Like they actually feel nice. They feel. I have some stuff that has metal buttons, basically made out of the exact same stuff as this. So like I know that this is going to feel.
It's going to feel nice.
Great.
Everything, by the way,
in
triggers,
the
triggers, all the buttons, start and select. The volume,
but that's a price.
This is a premium product.
It is.
I mean, this is Analog sort of thing. They've done this with the NT Noir re-releases a lot more.
Yep.
Was there another one that was a re-release?
I think there were 2 that they did it with. They also did 2 special editions of the. They did a special edition of the Analog, the Super Nintendo one.
They did a Super NT one. With
they did. That has. They did one with Ghostly Records, and they also did the SG. They did a Hyperdub Records. So they always do these special editions that are
later
more expensive. But
so here's the thing: am I in the market at $500? Probably not. If this was like $350, $400, maybe on one day I'd be like, okay, why not? And sell my regular Pocket. So this is hitting a specific market. So
I also feel like this is just a slight jab, a little joke at the fact that the Chromatic was announced with a metal shell, and they were like, "Hey, we can do one too."
Yeah, but this is ready to ship now, so this was in production way before that. But
good timing.
It was good. I was like, good timing. It wasn't a response. This was going to happen no matter what before that. And we talked about this off the podcast. The Chromatic has had almost no buzz since its announcement about 5-6 weeks ago.
All it takes is for someone to like look into it a little bit deeper, and I don't think there's really anything to get excited about there unless you absolutely need the silly, like the craziest way to play only Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. Like that's the thing that really needs to be mentioned, and I think was lost by a lot of people in the excitement when the announcement was made. This isn't going to do other stuff. It's got a screen that is specific for like Game Boy and Game Boy Color resolutions. Anything else that you might be able to hack onto this FPGA, it's going to look like shit on it.
And here's the other thing about it that I think, in terms of marketing strategy, it doesn't come out till Christmas. So you announce it 6 months before it's going to ship. And I don't know for that market, especially with how they've gone after, I guess, Logan Paul's audience, who's not the audience anyway of Game Boy games, Game Boy Color. I don't know if that's the strategy that you should have done to unveil it. I understand building up, momentum over time, but you have to like redo that again November and December.
And the people who are into
the real marketing in,
and people who would follow someone like Logan Paul, or heaven forbid they think that Palmer Lucky's cool. These are people who are not going. It's what's put in front of them. New technology advancement. I don't think this is going to stick in anyone's head.
And the name is awful. The Chromatic is not a name that connotes anything to do with the Game Boy at all. It's too cutesy of a name. I'm just talking as a brand person. Like, that's not a good name. The Pocket's a perfect name.
Yeah.
It's absolutely perfect. They've done a great job with these names where it's like, Mega SG, Sega Genesis, Mega Drive, Super NT, Super Nintendo, NT. Like, in your head, it's okay, it makes sense. Chromatic, if someone on the street, hey, what does Chromatic mean to you?
It does make sense, except for the fact I couldn't remember any of that shit just now. I'm usually much better at that.
Well, you got to admit, Pocket's a perfect name.
No, Pocket's great.
Like, for that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
especially because it's generic. It's just Pocket.
Like Game Boy Pocket,
does everything.
You put a handle in your pocket. It's everything for that. Speaking, I guess, of Logan Paul, I put this down as just dumb YouTuber conversation to talk about, because it seems like it's been, I don't know if it's getting more and more into the zeitgeist or the timelines of social media, where it's now every fucking week there's something coming out where some YouTuber or content creator, I know you're not on Twitter the same they used to be.
I'm not on Twitter at all.
I don't know if it gets to Blue Sky at all.
I use Blue Sky.
I still gotta get on Blue.
So no, it really doesn't.
Right,
you telling me about this earlier today was the first I had heard about it.
So there's a couple of things that happen. The first is Logan Paul is suing, I guess, for defamation, CoffeeZilla. CoffeeZilla is a big YouTuber that's famous for outing financial scams, crypto scams, a lot of followers, and he did an expose on the Crypto Zoo, which was a failed crypto
Pokemon
game with a fucking crypto or NFT thing attached.
Yes, NFTs.
And people lost money on it, and so he did an expose on it. Logan Paul said he was going to, I think at some point pay people back. I don't know if it happened or not on that. I think he thanked CoffeeZilla at one point for doing the video. And now the fact that that's not in the news cycle at all, now he's deciding to sue him, CoffeeZilla. And I don't know, like, I don't know why these things happen. I know why influencers get in with crypto, because it's get rich quick. That's why they all tried it, or with NFT, because hey, some idiots are going to buy this because they're going to go for whatever I tell them to buy, and that's what happens with a lot of this crypto stuff, right?
Yeah,
and then it falls apart. Has there been a success story with a celebrity and an NFT or crypto? Has there been a success story where it's like kept its value, had a use years later?
Oh God, you want to know what crypto-zoo currency is worth right now?
What is it?
0.00004787.
That's a lot less than a cent.
Yeah, that's way less. Wow, that's just insane.
That's like insane. I need 100,000 to get to a cent. Is that what that is, or more than that?
Yeah,
that's a lot. Okay, so it's worthless.
Yep.
So I think we're going to get to an inflection point. I don't know. I think there's going to be. This is sociological Pat talking. I think there'll be a sociological backlash against influencer world at large.
I think it's happening.
I think it's going to happen because obviously our generation is not, the young Zoomers and the alpha generation that are really the followers. I think they'll get to an inflection point, I hope, where they're going to reach college and post-college and be like, this is all fucking bullshit, all these people that we're following day after day into their lives. And you think it's starting to happen now, or even they're like, think about it.
I mean, so look at we've talked about this before, and we've talked about how conventions, well, we kind of have, but we've talked about how conventions have less and less YouTubers and stuff like that out there. And I think YouTube, in the way that we think about it, and the way we think about how it's been over the past 10 years in our careers, with it or adjacent to it, I think that was largely kind of a fad, and I think that's slowly going away.
Come back a little closer to me.
I think the problem is this many people should you should not have the ability to put so many people on a pedestal is awful with no vetting.
That's what I say. The fact that there's no vetting of celebrity status anymore.
Right. And I'm not saying people should be vetted to post on YouTube, but celebrity status is not vetted. I constantly, especially on the other podcasts, talk about how much I hate the concept of celebrity status and how it needs to be destroyed. But the bigger issue is it's becoming a liability, I think, for convention organizers to take people in from YouTube because every fucking YouTuber's got some sort of scandal going on. There's a risk involved with this that someone that we talked about earlier that has caused problems at conventions.
Okay.
There's just this constant risk to bringing these people in.
There's risk to other celebrities as well. There's voice actors that have scandals and things like that.
Yes, yeah. But that too. I think what I'm saying is not just YouTubers in general, but this concept of low-level celebrity as a whole. I think people are more and more realizing that it's bullshit.
And have you just seen that? Just people talking about that? Like what's
well, yes. I just don't. I don't see as many feverish people following other YouTubers. I don't pay attention a lot to it, but I also don't see the older YouTubers that are kind of phasing out. I don't see a lot of new, fresh, incoming people trying to do it. I think it got to the point where we reached this critical mass with the number of people trying to get famous on YouTube to where people didn't want to try anymore because it was too flooded. I think people are just getting sick of it.
Okay. And plus there's a lot more outlets for so I think it's so now we have TikTok, which didn't exist 5 years ago. No, that's a whole platform.
You've got TikTok, you've got streaming.
Yeah, so it's more diffused across versus just YouTube.
There's other ways to get your 15 minutes of fame that aren't just YouTube.
Sure. So you're saying even because of that alone, people will be like, there's less of a chance for like a Logan Paul to sort of like get up and become a WWF fucking WWE superstar through his fame and to have boxing matches with Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, I just feel like people have fatigue from the whole YouTube celebrity thing.
And unfortunately, well, the other problem is it's almost like the are there any ethical billionaire sort of conversation. Is it the fact that do the ones that get to that point? How did they get there? Like,
Right.
are there any that got there clean? The same way as like there are any presidents that became presidents without knowing where all the bodies were buried and stabbing people in the back.
Right.
That sort of thing. And there probably were a few, but not the vast majority.
Right.
You know what I mean? There were probably ones here and there, but most of them probably had to do people dirty to get up there.
Yes.
And I'm guessing in the influencer world, that probably happened, by and large as well for a bunch.
I'm sure it's very true. Yeah.
So even if they were, nice people on the outside, maybe they had to do some nefarious things. I'm not saying even necessarily illegal, but had to step over some people, and do some backbiting and had to play politics. Same with like wrestling in order to get their spot. How many wrestlers that we always said they should have been a lot better than what they were? They probably didn't play the political game.
Yep.
Or the ones that got bigger than they should have, probably were playing politics to get bigger than what they should. It's the same thing.
Anyway, we got off track. So you were saying, well, no, I think that's pretty much what we wanted to say. We didn't mention.
Yeah, and I put down this thing about Boogie 2988 because he's in the news cycle, and I know Steven. I interviewed him way back in the day. There's stuff going around about
not a good dude.
Stuff going around about him allegedly, faking his cancer diagnosis, and I don't want to get into the specifics of things like that, but I think the more I'm around the people in, you want to say, cult community or in this group, the more I don't want to be in these sort of like inner circles, if you want to call that, or be in these sort of groups that have to, like, you have to know these people just because you have to know them. And the older I get, the more I'm like, I don't need it anymore. That's like I don't have to know these people anymore.
No, I don't either. We stopped doing the podcast regularly, and I got off of Twitter and fucked off to Blue Sky, and it's beautiful and brilliant. I don't know these people
anymore. Your mental
anymore.
health has never been better.
Yeah, I don't know these people anymore, so I don't have to deal with this shit, and it's great. And there's always kind of that car crash urge to rubberneck and look at these things happen in real time. I don't anymore, and God, it's been nice.
We're getting too old. That's what it is. We want to just settle down in our old ways.
I feel like 2-3 years ago, I would be the person coming over and being like, "Oh, did you see what happened to blah 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 or what they did?" And you'd be like, "How do you know this already?" But today,
that's right. You used to do that a lot. Yeah, I'd be like, "How do you know this?" It's just happened.
And then I come over today, and you're like, "Did you hear about these two big things?" And I was like, "No, I did not."
Maybe there's some peace to that.
There is.
Maybe it's it's just letting things be and just sort of like fading away.
Mm-hmm. I love it.